On this Saturday morning, thank you for joining us and being part of the reality of real estate. Cynthia Hash from Find Homes Realty. We've been doing this show for a while. Cynthia, remind folks what makes Find Homes Realty and your service to the community different than everyone else's before we get too far into today's show.
Oh, okay. Well, I think probably one of the best things to note is not only are we realtors because who follow a code of ethics authored by the National Association of Realtors, but we also have our own core values, which is loyalty, integrity, service, and thoroughness. And that is creating an environment of respect that honors one another by doing unto others as you would have done unto you. It also means in earning trust by consistently doing the right thing, even when no one is looking. Moral motives, in other words, create ethical actions that speak louder than words. And honestly, putting the needs of others before your own with creativity by thinking outside the box, but within the letter
Mhm.
of the law.
So well said.
Dedicating yourself to mastering your field in order to earn mutual commitment and loyalty between yourself, your client, and your company. So that's what the core values for Find Homes Realty truly is.
I think in the world of stand-up comedy, somebody then just says mic drop, and then I know what we have a whole show here for you this Saturday morning. Cynthia has put together some great stuff for you, but I just thought, we talk and people spend a half an hour with us on a Saturday morning, but I just remind them, who you are and what it's all about. So who have you brought with us this Saturday morning, Cynthia?
Well, I am actually very thrilled to introduce everyone to a a very young, he could be my son, but but I'll tell you, this guy knows everything there is to know about plumbing.
Oh,
And
wow.
yes, and his name is Thomas Agnew. He's a partner co-owner in Streamline Plumbing. And I've used his services personally and have enjoyed the expertise, and I felt like I was in really good hands. I've also had the um, great pleasure of meeting his uh, wife and she's soon to be little baby coming up. And so I'm really excited for them about that and the fact that they're buying their first home. So
Congratulations on
I
all
am,
fronts. Look at that.
th- it's so many. Yes.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
Thomas, this is how to get a hold of Thomas if you go online. They're very innovative. I don't know if you know the rest of the plumbers. You hire a plumber, and I'm sorry, but a lot of times you see things that you don't want to see simply because of the tool belt on their pants. And so I just want you to know Streamline is not like that at all. And they are very professional and they are also extremely knowledgeable in plumbing and just some good common sense. And guess what? The big difference with Streamline Plumbing that I've seen as well is the fact that a lot of times you can't get a hold of a plumber. A
Mhm.
lot of times they don't have the technological ability to maybe do online requesting services,
Sure.
that kind of thing. And but they're very unique in a way that you can do online. Sometimes you go online and you think you've ordered something or ordered or asked for services, and you just sit there in silence and you wonder if they've even received it. But their system is very modern and is very up to date, up to good standards in regards to modern technology. So I'd like to introduce Thomas, and what I'd also like to do is ask him if he could tell us what he knows about polybutylene piping. So let's get started on, and Thomas, introduce yourself, say howdy, and we appreciate you coming on board.
Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. A lot of really nice things said. Yeah, so my name's Thomas, and I have been a plumber for about 6 to 7 years, and have owned or co-owned Streamline Plumbing for 3.5 years now. And yeah, so I guess to just go straight into the question, um, I know a decent amount about it because we deal with it a lot,
Yeah.
about that piping. And I was actually dealing with it today. Believe it or not, we were replacing it underneath somebody's concrete slab in their home,
Oh,
which is very unfortunate, very expensive as well. So it's not something you want to have to deal with. But yeah,
So
it's
it makes the people with crawl spaces actually really like their crawl space for a change.
yes, exactly. Yeah, it makes a big difference. It allows for a lot more access and a lot of simplicity there. But um, yeah, do you have any more specific questions on the?
Absolutely. So I think everybody thinks that polybutylene piping is, they see everything about Quest piping,
Mhm.
and they think every single one of them, all of them leak. Is that factual?
Yeah, so what we've seen, at least here in Central Virginia, you kind of have two main scenarios. You have people that their homes are on the municipal system, so municipal water, which is already treated, which is the opposite of having a well system. Municipal, you're typically treating that water with some sort of chlorine, and that chlorine is what interacts very poorly with the Quest piping. What generally happens is over time it becomes very brittle, and because of the increased pressures that we're constantly having on municipal systems because of continued development, you see higher and higher pressures, which then result in either you get these pinhole leaks in the Quest piping, or they actually split and crack, which is probably even more common. So that's kind of the first scenario.
Mhm.
And then you have people that are on wells. And unfortunately, here in Central Virginia, we have very acidic water. And so what Quest piping was installed with originally, not 100%, but for the most part, what we see is copper or brass fittings. And those copper and brass fittings, especially the copper, is very thin and it corrodes through very quickly. And so that's how it fails in those instances.
Gotcha. And there are people that probably jumped on board in regards to the class action lawsuit that
Hmm.
was against the polybutylene piping. And I think it was Quest specifically because um, this was, I don't know, about 30 years ago,
Hmm.
and there were pretty catastrophic failures
Right.
at that point. And so, from what I understand, the major defendant on this class action lawsuit for Quest Piping 30 years ago was about it was Shell Oil Company
Hmm.
was the major defendant, as I understand it. And when and they were the supplier of the polybutylene resin that was used in the pipes. And they made that particular brand called Quest.
Hmm.
Is that, and so I think the reason for the lawsuit was that these poly pipes were prone to all kinds of premature failure, and whether it's leak or damage to homes, and poor reaction to what you were talking about earlier a moment
Hmm.
ago was chlorinated water. And
Right.
so, and I think the outcome at that point in 1995 of that lawsuit was a large settlement that was funded, allowing homeowners with poly pipes to get them replaced.
Right.
And the case ended up resulting in about $1 billion in settlement, with 92% going toward the homeowner's relief for replumbing costs, which is good to know that it actually went to the right purposes. Um, what
Hmm.
I'm wondering though is it when we go to home inspections and things like that for buyers, my first reaction is to look under the sinks and see whether there is that Quest piping. It's kind of a gray looking material. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah. So that is a good place to start. I will say a lot of times because of the failures, people have ended up replacing sections of them, so it can be kind of deceiving. Underneath sinks, especially, I'd say is probably one of the most common place to see spot repairs.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to probably look somewhere around the water heater, or better yet, right where it comes into the house, to identify whether the home has it throughout.
That's actually a very good suggestion because I I was in a subdivision of about 800 homes, and they were all built in the late 80s and up to the mid 90s. And about 10 years after the new construction was completed, we found a big puddle in the basement. And obviously came through the whatever the ceiling lines were, and who knows
Hmm.
how it got ruined, but it was directly under the half bath on the main level, and it was clear water, so it wasn't like it was toilet water or anything, and there were absolutely no leaks underneath the sink at all. So you're right, it
Yep,
can be deceiving, right?
they can. Yeah.
So the plumber ended up opening up the wall into the dining room, and apparently during the construction of the home, this plumber
Hmm.
had drilled the holes, okay, through the 2x4s before the drywall was installed. Unfortunately, either the plumber wasn't very experienced, or they just thought that the Quest piping was okay to do this because, oh, hey, it's bendable. Anyway, but because he had not drilled the holes in a straight line and got the bright idea that since the gray Quest Poly B pipe was flexible, they could bend it just ever so little to fit into the next hole instead of re-drilling the hole in the correct place.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
the
Wow.
hole had these sharp splinters in that 2x4 that rubbed the poly pipe just the wrong way over 10 years of time, and it finally rubbed a hole in the pipe. And so my question to you is, um, I mean, we didn't get on board with the Quest piping to go in and replace everything
Hmm.
because during that time it literally, I mean, we had little kids, and we didn't ha we didn't want all that drywall mess and all that kind of stuff. But it only showed up in that one place. The other place it showed up was the from the street to the house.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
that was ridiculous because what the insurance company, and this is just goes to show you how much common sense is not common. The insurance company said the well, the pipe goes underneath of the garage floor, which is concrete,
Hmm.
and well, we're going to have to, jackhammer up the garage floor. And I said, oh no, you're not. I said, why can't you take that pipe at the street and cut it off at the street and just run a new pipe to the back end of the house, which is where it was actually coming in. So
Mm.
I think the 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 reason I felt comfortable with Streamline plumbing was the fact that there was a lot of common sense there.
Mm.
And I truly appreciated that. And they've did a big job for us for one of my clients. And I was involved because that client had already moved away. And so this was save the day kind of situation when Streamline Plumbing came along. And so the common sense of it is you do want somebody that is knowledgeable in their field, but also has a lot of common sense. So you would have just gave us some really terrific advice, and that is look under the sink, yes, but that could have been a spot replacement.
Mm.
Instead, what you were saying is brilliant. Go look over there by the hot water heater and look where the entrance to the water line that actually comes into the basement or into the crawl space. So um, I can't imagine how much you must deal with this on a daily basis. You said you were just dealing with it in regards to underneath a slab. Can you
Mhm.
tell us what a horror mess was that?
Yeah, so usually it would be a very big mess, like you mentioned at your house. You were possibly going to have to break up some of the garage floor. And if we were to run a new line at this customer's house, it would have required probably 20 plus feet of their kitchen floor and their dining room floor being ripped up. But fortunately, we have a method where we pull a new water line through where
Hmm.
the old water line was. We basically feed, it's a little bit confusing to describe, but you run a cable through the existing water line that's leaking. So it was leaking underneath the
Okay.
slab.
Oof.
That cable has a cutter head attached to the end of it.
Okay.
And then you basically attach the new pipe to the back end of that cutter head. And so you're pulling the cable from outside the house. We actually hire a tow truck because it requires so much pulling force.
Wow.
And it pulls a new one through underneath the slab. So we were able to save these customers thousands of dollars and so much, mess inside their home
Oh
by
yeah,
just pulling a new one right through.
That's
Um,
amazing.
absolutely. Oh my gosh,
so
that's amazing. And what, see, I mean, this is again just one more reason that Streamline Plumbing is a save the day kind of plumber. Uh, if you were to, if you did that, then what do you normally replace them with? What kind of pipe?
yeah,
PVC of some sort?
so it's called black poly, so it is a polybutylene, but or a polyethylene, sorry.
Okay.
And it's basically 200 psi pipe, so it's very, very thick. The sidewalls are very thick.
Okay.
And another benefit is it is a lot less flow restrictions, a lot larger than Questline. And so you get more flow rate as well. And so we replaced that from the house all the way to the meter. Um, and so
That's
yeah, this
interesting.
this was their main line basically, running from the meter into the house that we replaced with the black poly.
So black poly, I noticed that there was some place online that I saw that had that really promoted poly,
Mhm.
and it still does. It's they call them poly pipe, and they are apparently new and improved.
Right.
So is that part of that family that you're speaking of?
It is. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So that's kind of along the same lines as PEX piping, which is the cross-linked polyethylene. That's what you generally run inside of new homes. That's kind of the new gold standard for running plumbing or supply lines inside homes.
Okay.
It is something that you can direct burial outside, but we tend to not use the PEX piping outside. We use the black poly. It's a lot sturdier and will last a lot longer.
So you've already done all that homework. That's amazing because most of the people that I talk the most about this in regards to poly is
Hmm.
home inspectors. And
Right.
of
Hmm.
course, they're not plumbers, but they know enough because they've been around and and they usually have the standard language of uh, talking about the class action lawsuit about Quest and things like that that they put in their home inspection reports
Hmm.
that actually takes the onus off of them, should it still fail. But they can't, and from a home inspection standpoint, if there's nothing that's visibly leaking, we can't do anything about it. We can't, call it and say, hey, you're going to replace every last pipe in behind the walls, under the floors, everywhere. We
Hmm.
can't say that. Um, but knowing, I think I would feel really super comfortable with knowing that you are have already figured out how to pull those. It's honestly, I'm thinking tens of, I probably saved them $10,000 at
Right.
least.
So yeah, we basically charged about $5,000 to replace it from inside the house to the meter. And typically that would, I mean, if we kind of had a backup price for if it did not go well and we had to go through the concrete,
Yeah.
and that was about $16,000.
Oh, see, perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking.
Wow.
Is that's an amazing difference, isn't it, Joe? That's amazing.
Well, and let me ask you this, Thomas, what is a reasonable amount of time for the black poly or the plumbing that you're installing to
hmm
last? Because I guess that's one of the things homeowners were puzzled about with the Quest was, is this an unreasonable amount of time for a pipe to be in a wall or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I haven't even been around long enough to probably to know how long the black poly will last.
So
It's
it's so
probably
new.
been Yeah, it's been around for about 20 to 30 years probably still.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, I've never ever seen a failure aside from where, the situation would be anything would have failed in this scenario, whether it's like it was improperly buried outside, so it was laying on top of a sharp rock and settling happened and it cuts it. Or probably the most common thing, and I think this is kind of a good thing for homeowners to know, um, wherever they run the supply line from the street into the house, and I'm talking about running from the street through a basement. Oftentimes they will over trench, and they'll basically dig too deep to where they were running the new line through, or I guess for the first time running the line through. And over time, we've typically seen about the 10 to 15 year mark, the settling happens, and
Mm.
you basically shear right at the
Oh,
foundation where it comes through the wall. I can't tell you how many times I've replaced basically right there. And oftentimes, the most unfortunate thing is it will flood into your house since it's so close to the foundation. So people oftentimes discover
Oof.
it because their basements are flooding.
Ah, well, ours, the exterior one, was our backyard was flooded. And I'm
hmm
like, going out there with the kid, with the toddlers and whatnot, and walking around and ankle deep in water.
grandma's got a new pool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
fish pond in the backyard.
Yeah. Is there an efficiency factor to this as well? Because Cynthia talks about this quite frequently with folks that she has in the building trades in terms of, if you unbalance your plumbing system, and I'm just a layperson, but if you have the wrong size piping and the wrong size and the water heater is wrong, it really has to be a balancing act for a house to
hmm
to be as efficient as possible.
Correct. And that's one thing I wanted to mention earlier. Cynthia, you talked about how they would run Quest piping and they would do really, really tight bends. And that was probably one of the most appealing things about Quest when it first came out. I think one of the things that everybody jumped on board was because it allows for so much flexibility. I mean,
Hmm.
I imagine someone could rough in a new, three-bedroom home or three-bathroom home with Quest piping in a day easily. Whereas in the past, if you had copper piping or galvanized, that's not a one day thing. That would take a long time. So it was major, major time savings,
Hmm.
and actually even cost savings because they stopped using fittings because they figured they could just bend them.
What do they call it?
Yeah,
Shark
that
bites
was
or something
awful
like that,
And
idea.
right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it seemed like an awful idea. I mean, a lot of instances I have seen them crack because they bent it too tightly.
Hmm.
But technically, they were capable of making really, really tight bends. And so that was the appeal. And now, kind of the replacement for that is what we call PEX A, or I think the most common brand is Uponor. So that's a high-end PEX piping, which also allows for a lot of flexibility.
Mm.
And that's not something that we use. I learned through a friend in Florida, actually. They use it very commonly there, and I've discovered that it's kind of a regional thing. Like PEX B is the other option. That's what we use.
Mhm.
And their sales people must have kind of won this region. And so PEX B is kind of the going rate here. And then other places, Uponor or PEX A
Okay,
has kind of, yeah, become more popular there.
I gotcha. Well, if you want to know more about how to get a hold of Thomas Agnew at Streamline Plumbing, you can always look online at streamlineplumbing.com, and you can also talk to them via email, gostreamlineplumbing@gmail.com. And your, can you tell us what your office number is, Thomas?
Yeah, so the best number to call is 434-218-3072.
Great. And
And you should
that is,
meet either Hallie or Sandy over the phone.
gotcha. And they're very nice folks, very nice folks.
Yeah, they're
And
awesome.
yes, and I will tell you that my other experience was a hot water heater that had rusted out at a client's home, and who was again already moved. And by the time we got all of the stuff away from the hot water heater, and I looked at that thing and I'm, oh my goodness, that thing is on the second floor.
Oh my.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
And
bad choice.
I know, right? It's gonna go any minute. And I was like calling Streamline, guys, I just really, please come out as soon as you can. And they did. And honest, you could see this hose that must have been 50 feet long or better. And they had to empty the hot water heater first. And the
Sure.
way, yeah. And so all this water was coming out into the yard and away from the house because they were smart enough to do that. And and they said, honest to Pete, that bottom, when they tipped it to get rid of it and to replace it, that thing was already leaking. I thought it was as well, but they said it was literally in the nick of time they were able to get that, and it was done in very one. They came over and one late afternoon and
Mhm.
stayed until they finished it. And I was so thrilled with their service. So again, go to streamlineplumbing.com or go streamlineplumbing@gmail.com, 434-218-3072. And please make sure that if you want to hear anything else about the real estate market, that you pop on to findhomesrealty.com/podcast. And there is a wealth of information there for how do you do this real estate stuff? What do we do? How do we handle this thing? And what was happening with the class action lawsuit that was against NAR? All those things are in there. Findhomesrealty.com/podcast. Thomas, do you have any closing remarks for us?
I just wanted to give you a shout out, actually, Cynthia. Just going through the process of buying our first home, has really been a breeze. Not only our interaction directly with Cynthia, but um, all of the people that she's recommended that we work with. It's just been such a smooth process. Couldn't be easier. I got to be honest. When I first, was getting married and kind of making some of these big decisions, I knew buying a home was kind of on the horizon, and it was one of the things I was probably most stressed about. And now I'm just like it's a breeze with Cynthia. So yeah, couldn't recommend Cynthia higher.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And
Yeah, of course.
that people are don't realize how hard business owners work behind the scenes,
Oh, certainly.
right? And you're a business owner, Joe's a business owner, I'm a business owner, and people have no idea. They think we're just made of money and just swimming in it, and they don't understand how much
It's a lot of work.
it is, how much
Yeah,
work it is. But it is a labor of love, correct?
correct. Yeah,
You
Yeah,
wouldn't
gotta,
change
yeah,
anything.
absolutely. And also, yeah, hey Thomas, real quick for those listening, you're
Mhm.
buying a house, you're about to start your family. How old are you?
I am 25.
Yeah, that's what I wanted people to understand. If you weren't seeing this, this is a very young fella who's got the direction, the ship pointed in the right direction. So a quick note about the skilled trades and things like that that you really
Hmm.
can get off on the right foot.
And
Yeah, wouldn't
I'm
change
so
anything.
tickled. I'm so tickled for you. And here's the thing is I remember we met years ago and many years ago, actually, I think. And we were and during that period of time you were still looking. But I wanted
Hmm.
to thank you for being so wonderful to work with. And I wanted to make sure that we head off on a great note. Again, streamlineplumbing.com and findhomesrealty.com/podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you.
Yeah.
And thank you, Cindy. You have a wonderful rest. Both of you have a wonderful rest of your Memorial Day, your
Noth-
Independence Day weekend.
Nothing like
Appreciate that.
confusing us, Joe.
Well, we might want to re-air it on Memorial Day. Who knows?
Here's the thing. Holidays might be holidays for most people, but for those of us in our own businesses, we don't get many holidays.
This is true. This is
Straight on
true.
through.
Enjoy some of it if you can.
All right,
All
take
right,
care.
appreciate that.